let's look here. All these lines represent levels of vibration. We know that every frequency is hooked up to the one above and the one below. We know that. We have studied that many, many times. All science and all theology teach us that. Now, there's a real lesson in here if we will get it. Okay? Now, look here for a moment. There's where you are right now. That's the yellow line. That represents the level of consciousness you are on. That represents what you're hearing when I'm talking to you. Okay? Now, this up here is where we've never been. That's where we really want to go. See, our heart is always causing us to want to go higher, further, okay? Faster even. What we should do is stop and remember how we got to where we are. There were lessons here. If we would pay attention, we'd see how we move from one frequency to the next. We know we're here. How did we get here? Well, let's stop and review. Do you remember you took the chances? You bet on yourself? There was no physical proof that you could do it, but you went there and you did it. So what you got to do now is go off up here and see yourself already there. It's like I tell the story in here about John and Pat. Want the house. I said, go buy the house. He said, we can't buy the house. We haven't got any money. I said, you don't need any money. I said, what do you mean we don't? I said, you haven't made a decision to buy the house. You see, what you've got to realize what you've done is you've raised your level of conscious awareness. If nothing's created or destroyed, everything's already here. If not in one state, in another. Now, where your mind has stayed here on this line, where you are, mentally, you've gone up here. And you get up there mentally and you're going to start to attract everything from that higher frequency. And of course you can go higher if you want. There's no end to where we can go. We are created in God's image. We're capable of doing all great things. This is not a fallacy. This isn't a fantasy. This is the real deal. And what we've got to do is know that when we raise our mind onto a higher frequency, it's like when you change the number on the phone. I can flip onto different frequencies here. I'm going to have to go on a higher frequency if I'm going to, do this or do that as you change things, It's one of the most fascinating things I have ever studied. Now let's come back here. The effortless way. We're talking about where we want to go and what we want to do. The principle of least action governs everything in physics from the path of the planet to the path of a pulse of light. Least action is the minimum of energy multiplied by the minimum of time. So we're talking about how can we do this, right now. Therefore, in moving from your present state to the state desired, you must use the minimum of energy and take the shortest possible time. Your journey from one state of consciousness to another, and that's all you're doing. You're moving on to a higher state of consciousness. Well, the journey from one state to another is a psychological one. So to make the journey, you must use psychological equivalent of least action, and the psychological equivalent is assumption. You just assumed that you're doing it. You just assume that you're there. You assume you've got everything in place. You go out and bet on yourself. The day you fully realize the power of assumption, you've discovered that it works in complete conformity with this principle of least action. It works by means of attention minus effort. Thus, with least action, through an assumption, you hurry without haste and you reach your goal without effort. This is so basic and it's so misunderstood. Now, if you'll flip over now onto page 49, how do we do this? Pardon me, on to 48. Your imagination is able to do all that you ask in proportion to the degree of your attention. All progress, all fulfillment of desire depends upon the control and concentration of your attention. Attention may be either attracted from without or directed from within. Attention is attracted from without when you are consciously occupied with the external impressions of the immediate present. In other words, whatever the hell's going on out there right now, it's got your conscious attention. The very lines of this page are attracting your attention from without. Your attention is directed from within when you deliberately choose that you will be preoccupied with mentally. You're going to choose what you're going to be preoccupied with mentally. It is obvious that the objective, your world, or you would attention. I'm reading this wrong. It's obvious that in the objective world, your attention is not only attracted by, but is consciously directed by external impressions. Well, let me read that again, because I screwed it up there. The very lines of this page are attracting your conscious attention from without. Your attention is directed from within when you deliberately choose what you will be preoccupied with mentally. It's obvious that in the objective world, your attention is not only attracted by, but is constantly directed to external impressions. When your control in the subjective state is almost non-existent. For in this state, attention is usually the servant, not the master. It's usually the passenger, not the navigator of the world. There is an enormous difference between attention directed objectively and attention directed subjectively. And the capacity to change your future depends on the latter. Listen, if you're really going to make quantum leaps, if you're going to work with this concept of assumption, you really have to give this your conscious attention. When you're able to control the movements of your attention in the subjective world, you can modify or alter your life as you please. But this control cannot be achieved if you allow your attention to be attracted constantly from without. Now, he gives us an exercise. Each day, set yourself the task of deliberately withdrawing your attention from the objective world and of focusing it subjectively. In other words, concentrate on the thoughts or moods which you deliberately determine. You see yourself doing the thing you really want to do. This is the assumption. You make it real in your mind.
You may already know about Bob Proctor's rags to riches story. This was one guy going nowhere until he made one decision that teleported his life. The change was so enormous, so Lightspeed whipsaw crazy, that he's devoted his entire life to teaching millions of people how to do the same. For 60 years, Bob Proctor has been dreaming up gigantic goals that initially, even to him, looked unattainable in a galaxy far, far away. But he always found a way to navigate to those points of twinkling light, casting the darkness out of his life. How has he always found his way? I don't mean his paradigm shifting in a general sense taught from the front of the room. I mean, how did he find his way? Conquering old habits, distancing from his old life, moments of frustration, moments of new direction, goal achieving, exaltation, and what he did next, practice steps, missteps, and jangled senses, questioning, analyzing, changing course, lousy times, failure times, and I can't even go on any more times. Because even a Jedi Master can have a bad day. Haven't you wondered how Bob became Bob? Just imagine what his personal lessons can do for the you you're becoming. Introducing the first ever Masterclass with Bob Proctor. Study personally with Bob from his book, You Were Born Rich. Chat with him. Ask the burning questions. Clear away the confusions. Conquer the bad days. Think like the master. And go, go, go. Your light speed is just one decision away.
I hope you enjoyed this video. We put a lot of good information up here, and it causes everything in your life to get better. If you'd like us to notify you every time we put a new video up, hit subscribe and then turn on notifications. Check out all our videos, and we will notify you when we put a new one up.